Donald Trump's trade policies reflect a radically different approach to international economics, shaped by his businessman mindset and his transactional view of global trade. While his rhetoric definitely appeals to domestic audiences, it risks shattering global norms and alienating allies, destabilizing the US economy. Let's explore the 6 key aspects of Trump's approach. 1. His businessman mindset. Trump's view of trade resembles a corporate executive analysing a company's accounts. He frequently frames the US trade deficit as a loss, equating imports to costs and exports to profits. This simplistic analogy ignores the complexities of international economics, where trade deficits often reflect strong domestic consumption or investment inflows rather than economic failure. For example, Trump's tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico and China, ranging from 10% to 25%, are intended to reduce the trade deficit by reshoring manufacturing. However, this approach overlooks the role of imports in providing essential inputs for production and cheaper goods for consumers. By treating imports as losses and focusing solely on domestic production, Trump risks disrupting supply chains and raising costs for American businesses. 2. Trump is shattering global trade norms. His tariff policies represent a sharp departure from decades of multilateral cooperation under frameworks like GATT and the WTO. Trump wants reciprocal tariffs. This is where the US will charge countries whatever they charge the US. This would be really complicated to implement and to manage for US importers, because different tariffs will apply to different products depending on where they're imported from. But this isn't the only issue. It's also putting a hand grenade to the global trade norms that have existed for decades. These norms have existed throughout my whole almost 40-year career. Historically, tariffs were carefully negotiated on a reciprocal basis, but in aggregate terms across sectors, not at the individual tariff line level as Trump proposes. Current tariffs are the result of previous tariff negotiations, very detailed, multiple negotiations, taking tariffs line by line. All the individual tariff levels were aggregated into a balance where countries felt that there was some kind of equivalence. Trump's new approach completely blows this decades-old approach apart. Further, his reciprocal tariffs plan undermines the critical WTO most favoured nation principle, MFN. This has been the foundation of the global trade system in the post-war period, ensuring that any trade concessions to one country are applied equally to all member nations. By imposing unilateral tariffs on key trading partners, including Canada, Mexico, China, Trump is raising US average tariffs to levels not seen since World War II. This move definitely threatens to provoke retaliatory measures from affected countries, destabilising global markets and eroding trust in international institutions. The third point is that Trump is making economic mistakes. He's creating inflation and he's hurting exports. Trump's tariffs reveal a lack of understanding of basic economic principles. He thinks that tariffs will create growth, that they'll rebuild the American economy. Tariffs act as taxes on imports, raising costs for businesses and consumers alike. Trump has claimed that tariffs are paid by exporters. I've done a separate video on that. But it's American importers that actually pay the duty. Increased tariffs on imports will increase US consumer prices. Importers will most likely have to pass the tariff hikes on. This could be a significant burden for households already grappling with high living costs. These inflationary pressures could force the Federal Reserve to delay interest rate cuts or even raise rates further, dampening economic growth. Given that he wants low inflation and growth, this is not what he's going to get. Also, other countries are already adopting retaliatory tariffs against the US. The previous tariffs were a careful balance that everyone had signed up to. Trump's grenade has blown that up, and other countries will be targeting sensitive US exports. The fourth point relates to supply chain distributions. The interconnectedness of global supply chains means that tariffs have ripple effects across industries. High-tech firms reliant on components from Asia face increased costs and delays. The packaging industry is grappling with higher raw material prices due to tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium. This affects, for example, cans for drinks. Car manufacturers effectively have free movement of components and semi-finished products with Canada and Mexico. These disruptions create uncertainty for business and actually will discourage investment and innovation at a time when economic stability is crucial. The fifth point is that the US is now an unreliable trade partner. Trump's erratic approach to trade has left allies questioning whether they can rely on the US as a stable partner. He's already proving somewhat inconsistent in his approach. He threatens tariffs, then he postpones them, or he offers exemptions. It's not clear always whether what he says on any one day is what it will actually happen. This is terrible for business planning. Companies that import products, particularly those importing crucial raw materials and components, don't know what the cost of their inputs will be in the future. This is not only difficult for US importers, other countries just don't know what to expect from trade negotiations with Trump. The sixth point is an interesting one. Tariffs may create unintended environmental benefits. The first 5 points all dealt with economic costs from Trump's tariffs, but there is an unexpected possible benefit from the tariffs. Trump has little regard for the environment, but his use of tariffs may actually have environmental benefits. The tariffs are aimed at increasing manufacturing within the United States. Trump keeps saying that foreign companies can avoid the tariffs by moving their production to the US. Interestingly, Trump's push for reshoring manufacturing will reduce trade and could be good for the environment. Reducing reliance on global supply chains would lower emissions associated with transporting goods across continents. However, this requires more than protectionist tariffs. It demands systematic changes in consumption patterns, and that's not something that Trump wants. The modern economy thrives on cheap imports that fuel overconsumption while exploiting labour rights and environmental standards in developing countries. A transition toward localised production could promote sustainability, but would necessitate embracing the economy getting smaller, focusing on enough rather than endless growth. Trump appears unaware that reshoring manufacturing would likely contract the US economy due to higher production costs and reduced access to cheap imports. While this contraction might be desirable from an environmental perspective, it conflicts with Trump's vision of economic dominance. Overall, Trump's trade policies reflect his businessman instincts, but disregard decades of diplomatic achievements and economic realities. His unilateral actions threaten global norms, alienate allies like the UK, and risk inflationary pressures that could stifle US growth. However, his push for localised production offers an unintended opportunity to rethink our consumption-driven economy, a shift that could benefit both people and the planet if pursued responsibly. Unfortunately, Trump's policies lack the nuance needed to achieve this vision without causing widespread disruption. In trying to win at trade like a business deal, Trump risks losing sight of what makes international trade beneficial: cooperation, stability, and shared prosperity. If you found this video interesting, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd be really grateful for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.